Hello, this is Debbie from cariadcards.co. Thank you for joining me today, and today I'm going to be making this card. So I start off with a piece of card blank that just comes out of a packet 6x6 that I've already folded ready as the card base. I've then cut a piece of Whisper White card to 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres. Cut a piece of Wisteria Wonder to 2 3/4 centimetres by 14 centimetres, and another piece of Whisper White to 2.5 centimetres by 14 centimetres. I will put all of these measurements on my blog. So I'm going to start off with the stamping. So I've stamped the leaves here and the flowers. For this I've used the set Summer Solstice, and I've used this stamp for the leaves, this stamp for the flowers, and this stamp for the central petal. The colours that I'm working with are Pistachio Pudding for the leaves, Wisteria Wonder for the main flowers, and Perfect Plum for the centre of the flowers. I'm just going to get my foam pad and my scrap paper. Just find it gives me a slightly better stamped image, and it means I've got somewhere to stamp my stamps off to. So I've got my leaf stamp there, which I'm going to ink up. Okay, now what you want to do is try to get some different angles on this, and we're also going to do what's called shadow stamping. So I'm going to start off with a full stamp there. Now you would think that I would just, if I want a lighter stamp there like that, I'd just reuse it, but because I've gone off at the corner, if you can see, I don't know if you can, but there's lots of ink here and hardly any ink there, so I would get an uneven stamp. So because it's only because I've gone off at the corner, if I'd stamped the whole of it, then I could have just used that to shadow stamp. So I'm going to use a full one of this now, so I think we'll go up there. My aim is to leave a little bit of white here, and then now because I've mostly used it all, I'm going to turn the angle round and put a second stamp there. So you can see that that is fairly even. Had I done what I was showing you before, I would have got these bottom leaves much darker. So I'm going to turn it that way and put an image there. Now I want to shadow stamp this, but you can see I've still got some ink left there. So what I'm going to do is ink it up again, stamp it so it's evenly coated, and then shadow stamp again. You can see now perfectly even, and I can, if I want, just go in and fill in a few gaps so I've got even lighter ink leaves there. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for the leaves. You can, if you want, put a second colour in. I'm then going to stamp my flowers. For that I'm using this stamp and Wisteria Wonder. So just ink that up, pop that onto there. I think I moved that slightly. There, that's better. I need 3 of these. I'm just doing these as a sample because I have actually gone ahead and cut them out, otherwise you would have been waiting a long time for me. And then I've got Perfect Plum. I'm going to use this central little stamp, ink it up and just pop it down in the centre, and it just gives the impression of the central stamens. There. Now what I then did was cut these out by hand. I'm really not going to make you sit and watch me do that. That would take about another 10 or 15 minutes for me to do. Well, not that long, but I've already gone ahead and cut them out by hand. So I've got those. So what I'm going to do is add a bit of dimension using my bone folder, and I'm just going to use it on its edge, go from the centre on each petal, put my finger underneath the petal and just pull up, just to give it a 3D effect, and I'm going to do that on all the petals. This is a very quick card to make. It's a shame there isn't a matching or coordinating punch or die for these flowers, because that would make it very easy. I'm going to put a tiny little rhinestone in the middle. It's up to you what size you use. I think mine are 3mm. And you could always colour them if you want with your blender pens to match your colour scheme. There we are. Okay, I'm going to pop those over on one side. Now it's time to start assembling the card. So you can see here on the white piece of card that I've stamped the leaves onto, I've used twine. So I've got our Stampin' Up! Twine, and all I've done for that is just wrap it round 3 times. And it's up to you, you can put it all the way to the top, you can just put it around the central part. You've just got to be careful that you don't put too much tension or not enough tension. Too much and your card's going to bend like that, not enough and it's all going to look a bit floppy. It's probably a good idea to unwind your twine first. So just wrap it round. That's all I'm going to do, like that. When I let go, that's fine. So just cut that off there. Now I'm just going to use a bit of double-sided tape just to hold that down, but not take the top covering off it. Okay, just make sure there's enough tension there. So that will just hold it down there. And again, maybe a little bit there, probably being a bit overcautious. And because I haven't adhered it at the front, you've got a little bit of wiggle room if you do want to move them slightly. Now I'm going to attach that onto my Wisteria Wonder card. So I'm just going to use some paper glue for that. Let's pop it around the edges. We had some hail this morning. It's suddenly turned extremely cold. The huge hailstones, but I don't know. Well, they looked huge. Luckily I wasn't out in it, but looked very chilly. Okay, so that's adhered down. Now, what I did on this card was I've got a couple of score lines. Those of you that watch my videos know I do love my score lines. So I've got my Simply Scored board, that's coming here, and the stylus that comes with it. I'll bring that down there so you can see. That's the front of my card. So I'm going to put the front of my card, you can tell because you just get slightly better cut on the edges. I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to position this. I'm not going to stick it down because obviously that wants to go onto the front. Now, I could measure this, but I'm just going to eyeball it. That to me looks... So let's have a look. I say I'm not going to measure it and then I go ahead and measure it. So that's 1.5 inches. That's 1. So actually I need it there. So I'm going to hold this straight and I'm going to go for the next groove up and just score a line, and I'm going to score a second line. You can do 2, you can do 3, you can do as many as you want, and the same on this side. Now I'm working at a very funny angle here, so I hope that doesn't jump out. 1, 2, perfect. Move my board out of the way, and then all I've got to do is adhere that onto there, which I'm going to do with a little bit of glue again. You can use double-sided, you can use fast fuse, you can use glue, you can use snail, whatever you find works for you. Oh, let's be generous. It's a Monday morning, I'm feeling generous. Okay, at the moment we don't have an upside or a downside, so it wouldn't actually matter which way round I'd put that on. So make sure that you've got that so you can see your score lines. And then get your card blank. If you do want to stamp a greeting, I've decided I'm not going to stamp a sentiment onto these. I'm just going to leave them blank, and then when I come to use them I can put my own sentiment on afterwards. But if you want to stamp one on, it's a good time now. Just going to pop a bit of glue around the edges here. And oh, I'll make sure you get this the right way up. There is definitely a right way to the leaves, and the card opens that way. So I'm just going to pop that on there. Oh, right, okay. I know what I haven't done. I think I'm going to rectify it, because that was very silly of me. I forgot. I've just sponged around the outside edge. You see, it doesn't matter what time of the day it is, I can make a blooper. I'm going to just use my finger sponge dauber. Did you see there oh, what shall I do? Shall I stop? So I'm just going to dip that in the Whisper White. Oh dear me, Wisteria Wonder. Oh Debbie, have more coffee. And just go along the edges. It's not a lot. The effect is very subtle, but it is worth it, because what it does is, especially when you're using white on white, it just lifts it visually from the base of the card. And you could, if you want, I did on my other one, but because I'm so busy talking and I've forgotten to do it, just go around the edges of that and also on the Wisteria Wonder card. And as I say, it's a very subtle effect, but you definitely notice it on these edges where it's white on white. You can, if you want, put more on. It's your card, you do it how you want. So I'm going to pop a little bit more on there because it's probably dried up by now. Silly me. And you, at least I did it in time before it actually stuck it down completely. Okay, so again, make sure, oh, would have been upside down then. Right, that's better. So you can actually see the edges. Glue all over my fingers, downside of using glue. There, it just lifts it there so you can see a little bit of extra dimension. Okay, all I've got left to do then is to pop my flowers on, and for that you can use a glue dot or a dimensional. Depends whether you want to lift it. A glue dot if you're not bothered about lifting it, dimensional if you would like to. Oh, decisions. Actually, I'm going to use a little bit of silicone glue just because it gives me a bit of wiggle room. It's probably a good idea to place the flowers on before you actually glue them, just so you can see how they look. Because of course once you've committed, it's much more difficult to move things about. So I generally like to just double check it first. There. And there we have it. Our Wisteria Wonder card with Whisper White using summer silhouettes. Thank you very much for joining me, Debbie, at cariadcards.co.